तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्।
Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, 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 Nam-myoho Renge Nam-myoho Renge.
Om Shri Sai Ram. Our dearest Lord, Bhagwan Shri Sathya Sai Baba, our loving and reverential pranams at your divine lotus feet. Our hearts are filled with love and gratitude for bringing us here tonight to celebrate the occasion of Buddha Purnima 2022, brought to you by the Sri Sathya Sai Global Council of South Africa at your divine lotus feet. Swami, we, your children, are blessed to be with you on this divine occasion. Loving Sai Rams and welcome, dearest brothers and sisters, respected elders and children joining us today. Buddha Purnima is one of the most sacred festivals in the Buddhist calendar. It celebrates three important events in Buddha's life birth, enlightenment, and final emergence. Swami, you have said that one must have the head of Shankara, the heart of Buddha, and the hands of Janaka. The name of Buddha evokes feelings of compassion and peace. This is primarily due to the life of purity and sacrifice rooted in the principle of avoiding harm, ahimsa, that Buddha led. Lord Buddha experienced and demonstrated the essential spirit of the Veda. He said, Buddham Sharanam Gacchami, meaning, I take refuge in the Buddhi, my power of discrimination. He also added, Sangam Sharanam Gacchami, meaning, I take refuge in the community. I take refuge in the society. Tonight, as we celebrate Buddha Purnima, let us reflect on the life and teachings of Buddha, derive inspiration, and strive to apply it in our daily lives. Jai Sai Ram.
Buddham Sharanam Gacchami Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami Sangham Sharanam Gacchami.
Buddha Mahavir Yeshu Sai,
Buddha Mahavir Yeshu Sai,
Buddha Mahavir Yeshu Sai,
Buddha Mahavir Yeshu Sai.
Vaheguru Vaheguru bol manwa,
Vaheguru Vaheguru bol manwa,
Vaheguru Vaheguru bol manwa,
Vaheguru
महावीर येशु साई।
बुद्ध महावीर येशु साई।
वाहे गुरु बोल मनवा।
वाहे गुरु बोल मनवा।
अल्लाह येशु सतगुरु साई।
अल्लाह येशु सतगुरु साई।
गीता वेद कुरान हो साई।
गीता वेद कुरान हो साई।
तन में साई मन में साई।
तन में साई मन में साई।
रोम रोम में साई साई।
रोम रोम में साई साई।
वाहे गुरु बोल मनवा।
वाहे गुरु बोल मनवा।
वाहे गुरु बोल मनवा।
वाहे गुरु बोल मनवा। बुद्ध महावीर येशु साई।
नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
नमो भगवते रामरूपाय।
नमो भगवते रामरूपाय।
नमो भगवते रामरूपाय।
नमो भगवते रामरूपाय।
नमो भगवते श्यामरूपाय।
नमो भगवते श्यामरूपाय।
नमो भगवते श्यामरूपाय।
नमो भगवते श्यामरूपाय।
नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
राम रहीम कृष्ण करीम येशु बुद्ध महावीर।
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 सर्वधर्म प्रिय साई देवाय।
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 नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
नमो भगवते रामरूपाय।
नमो भगवते रामरूपाय।
नमो भगवते श्यामरूपाय
नमो भगवते श्यामरूपाय
नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय
नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय
राम रहीम कृष्ण करीम येषु बुद्ध महावीर
राम रहीम कृष्ण करीम येषु बुद्ध महावीर
सर्वधर्म प्रिय साई देवाय
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 नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय
Sai Ram, my humble pranams at the lotus feet of Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. Dear Sai brothers and sisters, the topic of my talk today will be Lord Buddha's childhood up to Nirvana. I consider myself to have been blessed by our beloved Swami to deliver this talk at the Buddha Purnima Celebrations at Prashanti Nilayam today. This will become undoubtedly the most significant talk I have ever delivered in my life to date. Today is the most noteworthy day for 500,000 Buddhists all over the world as we celebrate three important events in the life of Lord Buddha: the birth, enlightenment, and Mahaparinirvana. On a day like today, 2,638 years ago, in this country of many great sages and saints, a little prince was born in the garden called the Lumbini Park at the foot of the Himalayan mountains. This prince was born to King Suddhodana of Sakya clan and Queen Mahamaya, who ruled a kingdom in the north of India known as Nepal today. It is said that this child was born fully awake. He could stand, he could walk, he could speak, and no sooner proclaimed that this is his last birth and had come to free all mankind from suffering. It is said that the lotus blossoms rose in his footsteps. The little prince was named Siddhartha, which means he who has attained his goals. Sadly, the mother, Mahamaya, died just 7 days after his birth. After that, Prince Siddhartha was raised by his mother's kind sister, Mahaprajapati. King Suddhodana consulted ascetic Asita, a well-known prophet, concerning the future of his son. Asita proclaimed that he would be one of two things. He could become a great king, even an emperor, or he could become a great sage and savior of humanity. The king, eager that his son should become a king like himself, was determined to shield the child from anything that might result in him taking up the religious life. And so Siddhartha was kept in one or another palace and prevented from experiencing much of what you and I would consider quite common. He was not permitted to see the elderly. He was not permitted to see the sick or the dead, or anyone who had dedicated themselves to spiritual practices. Only the beauty and healthy surrounded Prince Siddhartha. Siddhartha grew up to be a strong and handsome young man. As a prince of the warrior caste, he was trained in the arts of war. Thereafter, he married Yasodhara, a beautiful princess of a neighboring kingdom. As Siddhartha continued living in the luxury of his palaces, he grew increasingly restless and curious about the world beyond the palace walls. He finally demanded that he be permitted to see his people and his lands. The king carefully arranged that Siddhartha should still not see the kind of suffering that he feared would lead him to a religious life, and decreed that only young and healthy should see and greet the prince. As he was led through Kapilavastu, the capital, he chanced to see a couple of old men who had accidentally wandered near the parade route. Amazed and confused, he hurried after them to find out what they were. Then he came across some people who were severely ill, and finally he came across a funeral by the side of a river, and for the first time in his life, Prince Siddhartha saw death. He asked his friend, the charioteer, and the steward Channa, the meaning of all these things. And Channa informed him of the simple truths that Siddhartha should have known all along, that all of us get old, sick, and eventually die. Prince Siddhartha also saw an ascetic, a monk who had renounced all the pleasures of life. The peaceful look on the monk's face would stay with Prince Siddhartha for a long time to come. Later, the prince recalled, when ignorant people see someone who is old, they are disgusted and horrified. And even though they too will be old someday, I thought to myself, I don't want to be like the ignorant people. After that, I could not feel the usual intoxication with youth anymore. Prince thought, when ignorant people see someone who is sick, they are disgusted and horrified, even though they too will be sick someday. Prince thought to himself, I don't want to be like the ignorant people. After that, I could not feel the usual intoxication with health anymore. Prince thought, when ignorant people see someone who is dead, they are disgusted and horrified, even though they too will be dead someday. I thought to myself, I don't want to be like the ignorant people. After then, I could not feel the usual intoxication with life anymore. At the age of 29, Prince Siddhartha came to realize that he could not be happy living as he had been. He had discovered suffering, and he wanted more than anything to discover how one might overcome suffering. After bidding goodbye to his sleeping wife and the newborn son Rahula, he quietly left the palace with his aide Channa and his favorite horse Kantaka. He gave away his rich clothing, cut his long hair, and gave the horse to Channa and told him to return to the palace. He studied for a while with two famous gurus of the day, but found their practices lacking. He then began to practice the austerities of self-mortification, practiced by a group of 5 ascetics. For 6 long years he practiced. The sincerity and intensity of his practice were so astounding that long before the 5 ascetics became his followers. But the answers to his questions were not forthcoming. He redoubled his efforts, refused food and water, until he was in a state of near death. One day, a peasant girl by the name Sujata saw this starving monk and took pity on him. He begged him to eat some of her milk rice. Siddhartha then realized that these extreme practices were leading him nowhere, that in fact it might be better to find the middle way between extremes of life of luxury and life of self-mortification. So he ate, drank and bathed in the river. Seeing this, the 5 ascetics concluded that Siddhartha has given up ascetic life and taken to the ways of the flesh and left him. In the town of Bodh Gaya, Siddhartha decided that he would sit under a certain fig tree as long as it would take for the answers to the problem of suffering to come. He sat there for many days, first in deep concentration to clear his mind of all distractions, then in mindful meditation, opening himself to the truth. He began to recall all his previous lives, see everything that was going on in the universe. On the full moon day of May, like today, with the rising of the morning star, Siddhartha finally understood the answer to the question of suffering and became the Buddha, which means he who is awake. My dear brothers and sisters, 9 years ago, on 13th of May 2006, at the Buddha Purnima Celebrations in Vrindavan, Swami, delivering a divine discourse on the topic Attain Enlightenment by Renouncing the Desires, said, Lord Buddha recognized the unity of all creation. The true wisdom lies in seeing oneness. On that day, Swami said, it is a sign of ignorance to see duality, ignoring the underlying unity. He reiterated that duality is not the truth. Man's life finds fulfillment only when his mind experiences the principles of unity or oneness. Everyone should make efforts to visualize unity in diversity. Only then we see ourselves as one, which leads us to deliver service to each other, making us experience divinity. Swami continued to elaborate on how we could put Lord Buddha's teachings to real life practice. He said, oneness leads to practice of love. In the absence of love, humanness has no existence. We should love all, irrespective of the fact whether one is a pauper or a rich man. Money is not important, Swami said. Money comes and goes. Morality comes and grows. Do not hurt others. Help ever, hurt never. Only then you can attain the state of a Buddha. Finally, what should we take home from this talk today? To put into reality what Lord Buddha taught us, and in order to take the path of the ultimate bliss of nirvana, let us practice loving kindness as a part of our lives on a day-to-day basis. Make it selfless love, yathartha prema, eternal, undying, boundless, and unconditional love. Seek every opportunity to be of service, however small or big it could be. To put in Swami's words, engage yourselves in service activity. Consider social service as service to God. This is the best way to earn God's love. Love all and serve all. Your entire life will be blessed thereby. Om Jai Sai Ram.
संसारा काँडाको आँखामा काँडै संसारा फुलको आँखामा फुलै संसार काँडाको आँखामा काँडै संसार झुल्किन्छ है छाया वस्तु अनुसार काँडाको आँखामा काँडै संसार फुलको आँखामा फुलै संसार काँडाको आँखामा काँडै संसार शुद्ध होस् मेरो बोली बुद्ध होस् मेरो पैतालाले किरै नमारोस् चित्त शुद्ध होस् मेरो बोली बुद्ध होस् मेरो पैतालाले किरै नमारोस् राम्रो आँखामा खुल्छ राम्रै संसार काँडाको आँखामा काँडै संसार फुलको आँखामा फुलै संसार काँडाको आँखामा काँडै संसार ला 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 La 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 टाह टाह जुन देखो कालो रातैमा जीवन संगीत सुन्नुमा सुख पातैमा टाह टाह जुन देखो कालो रातैमा जीवन संगीत सुन्नुमा सुख पातैमा संगलो मनमा खुल्छ है संगलै संसार काँडाको आँखामा काँडै संसार फुलको आँखामा फुलै संसार काँडाको आँखामा काँडै संसार फुलको आँखामा फुलै संसार काँडाको आँखामा काँडै संसार झुल्किन्छ है छाया वस्तु अनुसार काँडाको आँखामा काँडै संसार फुलको आँखामा फुलै संसार काँडाको आँखामा काँडै संसार काँडाको आँखामा काँडै संसार काँडाको आँखामा काँडै संसार
तुम हो श्याम राम रहीम 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 राम रहीम श्याम राम रहीम बाबा तुम हो श्याम राम रहीम। अल्लाह येशु बुद्ध महावीर। अल्लाह येशु बुद्ध महावीर। नानक साई सौराष्ट्र भी हो। नानक साई सौराष्ट्र भी हो। सर्वधर्म प्रिय साई नारायण। सर्वधर्म प्रिय साई शंकर। तुम हो श्याम राम रहीम। राम रहीम श्याम रहीम। बाबा तुम हो श्याम राम रहीम। अल्लाह येशु बुद्ध महावीर। नानक साई सौराष्ट्र भी हो। सर्वधर्म प्रिय साई नारायण। सर्वधर्म प्रिय साई शंकर। राम रहीम श्याम रहीम। राम रहीम श्याम रहीम। राम रहीम श्याम रहीम। साई राम रहीम श्याम रहीम। बाबा तुम हो श्याम राम रहीम।
राम कहो कृष्ण कहो ईश्वर अल्लाह साई कहो। राम कहो कृष्ण कहो ईश्वर
साईनाथ भगवान, साईनाथ भगवान,
साईनाथ भगवान, साईनाथ भगवान,
साईनाथ भगवान, साईनाथ भगवान,
साईनाथ भगवान, साईनाथ भगवान,
सत्यं शिवं सुन्दरं 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 साईनाथ भगवान,
साईनाथ भगवान, साईनाथ भगवान,
साईनाथ भगवान, साईनाथ भगवान,
बुद्धं शरणं गच्छामि,
बुद्धं शरणं गच्छामि,
बुद्धं शरणं गच्छामि,
बुद्धं शरणं गच्छामि,
धम्मं शरणं गच्छामि,
धम्मं शरणं गच्छामि,
धम्मं शरणं गच्छामि,
धम्मं शरणं गच्छामि,
संघं शरणं गच्छामि,
संघं शरणं गच्छामि,
संघं शरणं गच्छामि,
संघं शरणं गच्छामि,
सत्यसाईश शरणं गच्छामि,
सत्यसाईश शरणं गच्छामि,
सत्यसाईश शरणं गच्छामि,
सत्यसाईश शरणं गच्छामि,
साईनाथ भगवान, साईनाथ भगवान,
साईनाथ भगवान, साईनाथ भगवान,
सत्यं शिवं सुन्दरं साईनाथ भगवान,
सत्यं शिवं सुन्दरं साईनाथ भगवान,
साईनाथ भगवान, साईनाथ भगवान,
साईनाथ भगवान, साईनाथ भगवान,
बुद्धं शरणं गच्छामि,
बुद्धं शरणं गच्छामि,
धम्मं शरणं गच्छामि,
धम्मं शरणं गच्छामि,
संघं शरणं गच्छामि,
संघं शरणं गच्छामि,
सत्यसाईश शरणं गच्छामि,
सत्यसाईश शरणं गच्छामि,
सत्यसाईश शरणं गच्छामि,
सत्यसाईश शरणं गच्छामि,
साईनाथ भगवान, साईनाथ भगवान, सर्वधर्म प्रिय देवा,
सर्वधर्म प्रिय देवा,
सर्वधर्म प्रिय देवा,
सर्वधर्म प्रिय देवा,
सत्य साई देवा,
सत्य साई देवा,
सत्य साई देवा,
सत्य साई देवा,
अल्लाह येशु बुद्धर नानक,
येशु बुद्धर नानक,
अल्लाह येशु बुद्धर नानक,
येशु बुद्धर नानक,
सौराष्ट्र महावीर तुम हो,
राष्ट्र महावीर तुम हो,
सौराष्ट्र महावीर तुम हो,
राष्ट्र महावीर तुम हो,
राम भीत बुद्ध और नानक सौराष्ट्र महावीर तुम हो राम भी तुम हो कृष्ण भी तुम हो विश्वरूप तुम हो विश्वरूप तुम हो साई विश्वरूप तुम हो सर्वधर्म प्रिय देवा
वाहे गुरु वाहे गुरु वाहे गुरु की बोले वाहे गुरु वाहे गुरु वाहे गुरु की बोले सत्यनाम 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 बोलो सत्यनाम सत्यनाम सत्यनाम
Vináyaka
आत्मलिंग शिवदू असतो मा सत्यमया तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमया मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमया
ॐ जय जगदीश हरे स्वामी सत्य साई हरे भक्तजना संरक्षक भक्तजना संरक्षक पति महेश्वर ॐ जय जगदीश हरे शिवदना श्रीकरा सर्वा प्राणपति स्वामी सर्वा प्राणपति आश्रित कल्पलतिका आश्रित कल्पलतिका अवतारव ॐ जय जगदीश हरे माता पिता गुरुदैव पर्यन्तयुनीरे स्वामी पर्यन्तयुनीरे नाद ब्रह्म जगन्नाथ नाद ब्रह्म जगन्नाथ नागेन्द्राशरण ॐ जय जगदीश हरे ओंकार रूप साई महादेव सत्य साई महादेव मंगल आरती अंदुको मंगल आरती अंदुको अंदर गिरिधारी ओम जय जगदीश हरे नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण 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 ओम नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम जय सद्गुरुदेवा नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण 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 ओम नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम जय सद्गुरुदेवा नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण 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 ओम नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम जय सद्गुरुदेवा शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः जय बोलो भगवान श्री सत्य साई बाबा जी की जय।
परमं पवित्रं बाबा विभूतिं परमं विचित्रं लीला विभूतिं परमार्थमिष्टार्थं मोक्षप्रदानं बाबा विभूतिं हृदयाश्रयामि परमं पवित्रं बाबा विभूतिं परमं विचित्रं लीला विभूतिं परमार्थमिष्टार्थं मोक्षप्रदानं बाबा विभूतिं हृदयाश्रयामि परमं पवित्रं बाबा विभूतिं परमं विचित्रं लीला विभूतिं परमार्थमिष्टार्थं मोक्षप्रदानं बाबा विभूतिं हृदयाश्रयामि।
साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वप्रचोदयात् ॐ 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 साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वप्रचोदयात्